back. I'm Four Towers Films.
And I'm Doug218. And
we are back and we are talking about Masterchef Canada. Return to Win, and Back to Win's the actual official name, but as you can see, we called it Return to Win. Same idea. Episode number 3.
Last week it was preempted due to the Golden Globes, and so here we are. This is the first team challenge.
And it was actually kind of interesting. They were obviously divided into 2 teams, the red and the blue. And Jeremy was the leader of the red team, and May was the leader of the blue team. And what was interesting is it's a very unique team challenge they did this year. Now, as you know, the 3 judges are all restaurateurs. Mm-hmm. So they're talking about the fact that during the pandemic, a lot of the restaurants have had to close to indoor dining. So, but they've been mostly relying on
food service apps,
food service apps, delivery, takeout, that sort of thing. So they're basically, the team challenge is that they had to create the first ever Masterchef Canada food deliveries app.
And the thing was, they had to create they had to serve 260 dishes in 90 minutes.
90 minutes, yeah.
And they had an hour prep time before the app went live.
And they had 3 dishes that they had to do. One was a meat dish, one was a vegetable dish, and one was a starch dish.
So, the team
captains chose their own teams.
And it broke down to, for Jeremy, it was Andrew, Chris, Thea, and Marissa.
That's the red team.
That's the red team. And blue team was Andre, Andrew, Jen, and the returning Barry, because April Lee had to leave due to an injury.
An injury. They didn't specify in the show what the injury was, but they were going to be doing, I think, online a chat with her. So maybe she explained what happened. We did not see that in the show the previous week that it was on, and they didn't really elaborate on what the injury was, so we don't know what happened.
And if we hear anything else, we'll let you guys know in the next episode. So, it turned into... So they both came out with their they both sat down, did their menus, and it was a meeting of Asian flavors.
That's what was interesting is, I guess, maybe because Jeremy's Filipino and May on the blue team, they're both from Asian descent. So they both came up with Asian dishes. So it's funny, May came up with tropical Asian, and Jeremy came up with basically Filipino flavors.
And these guys had to prep like crazy.
Well, because Jeremy's saying he's really the only one who knew anything about Filipino dishes, and he wanted to make it go mainstream, because it's not really something a lot of people, it's not really mainstream Filipino food. Mm-hmm. It's mostly Japanese or Chinese or Thai, that sort of thing. And so he was really wanting to kind of showcase Filipino dishes and Filipino flavors. So he was kind of having to try to take the lead somewhat on that. And he did at first, and during the prep.
Yeah.
And how he wanted things cut, and the flavors of the sauces, and the cooks on things.
Of course.
So he was pretty vocal, because it kind of had to be.
Oh, of course. Of course he did.
So, and same with May on the blue team, is she was very well at organizing.
You're doing this, you're doing this.
You know, she wanted like buried on the mandolin and really slicing the slaw and stuff. And he didn't want to use the mandolin at first, because I guess he had problems with it. Mm. But how he was slicing it with the knife wasn't thin enough.
Yeah.
So she wanted him to use the mandolin. So.
And so
the prep went pretty well for both sides, I must say.
So 5 minutes before the launch, the chefs start doing a wander around, and Claudio comes over to the blue team. Now Andrew's working the meat station, because they have a protein component, and Claudio's like, this pork you're cooking,
it's raw.
It's raw. Like raw.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 minutes before launch, and Andrew's like, thank you, I will fix this. He's like, get the heat up, olive oil, salt, get it going.
Right.
And they had a professional photographers there to take the pictures of the dishes.
For the app.
So, like, Jeremy is...
Well, then they had the app launch. It didn't take them long to get their first orders coming in.
Now, you saw two different styles. Like, May, who should have expedited, didn't expedite.
She actually had Andrew expedite. Basically because he's a restaurateur and he's had a restaurant for the past 3 years. And he was talking about that his restaurant, during the pandemic, has shifted to basically food app deliveries and things. So he goes, like, this is kind of like his Wednesday. And so he's used to doing it. So she had him do it. And he was very vocal about calling out the orders and making sure everything was how it was supposed to be in a quick manner and all that sort of stuff. And then it's funny because May kind of went silent then. It ended up being Andrew really leading that team after a while. And he even said that. He goes, it's one thing to be expediting it, but technically he's not the leader.
You should be and you should be checking in with me, or you should be doing something with me.
Right. Or with the whole team. And because they were off to a good start, but some of the dishes that they did actually took a long time, and we'll talk about what dishes they actually came up with. One of them was a taco, and it takes, and Barry even talked about this.
It
said it's going to take too long to put together, and which gets you behind a bit. And I mean, it did end up actually causing them a little bit of a problem later on. So it was funny. May really should have been on top and making sure they had enough prep done, if any prep needed to be done, all that kind of stuff. And she really actually left a lot of that to Andrew through most of the full challenge. Jeremy, on the other hand, on the red team, pretty much went silent, said nothing. And it's funny, Thea is saying, hello?
We're not talking.
Like, even during prep, she's the one actually going, do you need this? Do you need that? Do we have enough of this? Do we have enough of that? It wasn't Jeremy doing that. She's even saying, you have to speak up. You have to kind of direct us a little bit more here. And then even when the challenge started, she's saying somebody needs to expedite, because nobody was expediting at all on the red team.
Technically, they don't know what they're cooking.
And so, they're all having to just look at the order instead of calling it out. And so she's like, somebody has to expedite this. And I think it was Jeremy is on their team, was saying, well, just look at it. And she's like, no,
it was Chris.
Chris?
It was Chris.
Somebody needs to actually call it out. And so she said it about 3 times. It wasn't until Michael came over and said, you actually have to expedite this.
This is your team. You need to lead.
This is your team. Actually
lead,
like he goes, that's how it is in a restaurant,
And so, okay, and the orders started coming in, and they got slammed right off the jump. And even like Claudio said, this is where it's trial by fire kind of thing. So eventually both the judges got to taste the protein dish. So the first one was a jerk chicken wings with slaw. That was from the blue team. And the other from the red was a chicken poke bowl.
This was the meat dish.
First comment out of Alvin is if you're going to say it's jerk chicken, it needs to be spicy. And they all kind of agreed with that. It's
like they said, it was good flavor. And it's a good cook, but it wasn't spicy enough.
No.
So.
And then with the poke bowl, they said.
Oh, they like to cook on the rice. They like to cook on the flavors and the chicken and that, but there wasn't enough chicken. They gave them about 3 little tiny pieces of chicken, and they said, they need to give at least a couple more pieces of chicken.
Yeah, make it worth the while.
And that tended to be a running thing with the red team, is that their dishes were a little too small. They didn't actually have very good portion sizes on their dishes.
So, no, they did not.
And they actually got smaller as the challenge went along because they started to run out of food later on. The blue team started prepping more, but they actually just kind of started having
Yeah.
what they already had. And so it's funny, Alvin came over and said, would you be happy with the portion size of this?
That was Claudio.
Claudio Alvin, I believe, said too.
Well, Alvin said to one, Claudio said to the other. Like, they're both like, hey, you got to pick this up kind of thing.
And so they said they start to prep some more. So, because you got to keep your customers happy. You can't give them a little tiny
rinky-dink portions. Okay, so then the judges tried the vegetarian entree. The blue team did a mushroom taco, and the red team did charred eggplant.
Now, if you remember, Barry initially said he thought the taco was a bad idea because there's a lot of components and it takes too long.
Yeah.
You have to add each individually. Now, some of the times when Andrew's looking through the orders, some of them had 6 tacos, 4 tacos per order. So, I mean, and that takes time to even do one. So, I mean, you're talking a lot of tacos. So, they actually had to pull other people from other stations to build these tacos because they were getting behind.
Oh, yeah, and kind of, the judges kind of had meh comments on both.
Well, they said the flavor. They didn't like the flavor of the taco either.
And they didn't have great comments on the charred eggplant dish either. It was just okay, but I expect more. Like, it was almost like a child-sized portion, really.
Well, like we said, that seemed to be an ongoing running problem with the red team is their portion size was way too small and got smaller as the competition went along.
So, like you said, halfway through this, they're running out of food, but the orders are still
right. They still had
like
they were about halfway through.
40 minutes, yeah.
They were about halfway through.
Yeah.
And they were running out of prep, so they actually had to prep more.
And, like you said, Jeremy took it upon himself to say, okay, we're going to cut everything. And they were like, no, you can't do that. People are paying good money. And also, you had to score, you had to get close to a 5-star rating.
As you could. To
win this.
Yeah.
So then they finally get to the starch entree. So tasting it. So the blue team did a soba noodle salad, and the red team did a sweet potato noodles. Judges loved both of them.
They liked both of them.
They said that was kind of the highlight point for both sides.
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting because, I guess about midway to maybe 3/4 of the way through the challenge, they started getting video reviews from the people who had ordered them. And throughout, you saw the delivery people taking the orders to the houses. And then, so you only got to see a couple of them on video, what they liked them. And again, like one of them who got the red said, he's a big guy, and give him 2 kind of thing, just because it just wasn't big enough. It was so
small, yeah.
Portion was too big, wasn't big enough. So they were waiting on comments and ratings.
So, towards the end of the challenge, when they finally got the okay, we need to look over everything, clean up your kitchens, as Alvin so succinctly put it.
Well, because you said, you can relax because we're waiting on the last of the ratings, but before you can relax, you got to clean up your kitchen. So
when they finally brought them all back together, they said, okay, some of the comments that we did get, like for the red team, it was a portion size on everything, and like we had said through this episode. And on the blue team, they thought the mushroom taco was it didn't do it for them. So
didn't like the flavor and that.
The ratings came in. Now we were shocked. We thought it would have swung the other way.
Well, they said it was fairly close. It was one team, the losing team got 3.8.
Mm-hmm.
And the winning team got a 4.1. So, I mean, it wasn't hugely different, but the winning team was the red team. We're actually surprised that it wasn't the blue team, but it's the red team.
Exactly. And so, Jeremy's like, Phew.
Well, because Thea was on the red team, was saying earlier that she didn't have a lot of good luck on team challenges. She's always ending up on the losing team.
Yeah.
So, except this time not.
No.
And it's funny, Barry said, he goes, he doesn't want to say I told you so
But
about the taco. He goes, he's
damn
like,
taco.
No, taco. So, the blue team is now having to go into the dreaded pressure test next week.
And Chef Michael's son makes an appearance next episode, as we saw in the preview for next week. What did you think of seeing this challenge where we saw MCC for You?
That was the app name.
That was the app name. I thought it was a pretty unique challenge to, like, as a virtual restaurant, because in previous seasons they did, like, a restaurant.
They have. They've done a couple times where they've had an actual kind of restaurant setting.
Yeah.
In the Masterchef kitchen, and I believe they have on the American one too, but they can't have that right now. So it was interesting. It was unique.
Yeah.
It's and like Claudio even said at one point, he believes that delivery apps and things like that are probably going to become the wave of the future.
Could very well be.
Because, you know, I mean, those restaurants that have been able to, they've had to kind of pivot right now because they can't do indoor dining, at least not here in Canada. I know a lot of places in the States, they're still allowing it. And it's not right across Canada. It's the places that have most been shut down. In the like really hardest hit areas, but they've really had to pivot in order to survive, a lot of these restaurants. And some of them have actually done very well by doing these apps and thinking of different things to survive. So, and it kind of makes sense because a lot of people may want this kind of food outside of, say, pizza or, you know, McDonald's or something delivered. They may want like fine dining, and so, and of course, Skip the Dish and Uber Eats are not new. They've been around a few years, but now, because more people are relying on them, and restaurants are, they may continue to. So, and you've got even other kinds of delivery apps, like, you know, that where ready meals will come to your house, too.
Of
so,
course.
some restaurants are actually doing that as well, so, which we have seen. And combining actual cooked meals with meals that they prep and you cook at home.
Yeah.
We've seen that on our news stations. There's restaurants even doing that right now. So, it's interesting. It was a unique challenge, and I kind of agree that may be a way a lot of restaurants are going to pivot and survive and even continue on even after the pandemic's over.
Well, even look, Andrew himself, who has a restaurant.
He's doing that, yeah.
This is what he did, and like he was very proud of the fact that he didn't lose any of his staff.
He's been able to retain them.
He's been able to retain them and keep his business open by doing this.
Yeah.
So if someone like this can adapt, I think others can adapt. All in all, it was a great challenge. A lot of work. 260 meals they had to send out.
Yeah, in an hour and a half.
And
it's not a lot of time.
Not a lot of time. And, you know, kudos to them for doing it.
Good job, guys. Yeah. It was very good. It was a hard challenge. It's different. It's nice to see them giving them different kind of challenges instead of the same kind of thing. Because remember, these are returning players, so, and a lot of them now are not technically home cooks. A lot of them actually are professional cooks now, and restaurant owners or caterers or whatever now. So they're giving them more harder challenges to do.
Because they expect more from them.
And I guess they should.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not just home cooks anymore, so their, I guess, abilities have gone up. So. Yeah. All in all, it was an interesting episode. If you get the chance, check it out. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.
It's over this time?
It's over this way.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't miss when we go live. And we will see you next week. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.